Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything going on in the world of sports. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go.
Instead of looking deep inside, every word I have to say, keep it simple.
Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to you.
And boy, do we have a lot to talk about in the land of sports, so we'll just keep it short and sweet for the intro for anything and everything that is the ODPH. You can find it at odphpodcast.com. Let us jump into a very busy week of sports, kicking off with the NBA.
Holy hell.
Free agency has swung through, and boy, oh boy, has some moves been made.
Yes, they have. Got a list here courtesy of the fine folks at NBA.com. Shout out to them because there's a lot of moving and shaking going on. So this list is in team order by alphabet. So you got the Atlanta Hawks, who have traded with the New Orleans Pelicans and have acquired Dyson Daniels and Larry Nance Jr. Only one that jumps out to me there, Larry Nance Jr. Could be interesting. For the Boston Celtics, you've got Luke Cornett returning on a one-year deal. Neemias Queta return on a multi-year deal. Jason Tatum, of course, the big one there, agreeing to a 5-year max extension. What was that, like $200 million, $300 million?
$312 million, I believe.
Good grief. Xavier Tillman returning on a 2-year deal, and Derek White agreeing to a 4-year extension. For the Brooklyn Nets, Bojan Bogdanovic agreed to join. Well, he didn't agree to nothing. He was traded to them via the New York Knicks. You had the Charlotte Hornets acquired Reggie Jackson via a trade with the Denver Nuggets. Chicago Bulls acquired Josh Giddey via a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Jalen Smith agreed to a 3-year deal per ESPN. Patrick Williams returned on a 5-year deal. Holy hell, good for Chicago. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell, 3-year contract extension. A little surprised by that.
Very surprised by it, but probably one of the biggest moves in Cleveland Cavalier basketball history.
That isn't named LeBron James.
Great sign for the franchise.
Yeah. For the Dallas Mavericks, they acquired Quentin Grimes via a trade with the Detroit Pistons. Najee Marshall agreed to a 3-year deal, and probably the biggest news thus far, at least in my opinion, joining them via a sign-and trade, Klay Thompson.
Yes, the Splash Brothers are no more. In Golden State, the three-peat, or should
The
say,
dynasty.
I was going to say the three-peat, the triplet threat, however you want to define the trio of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson are no more.
Yeah.
A changing of the guard out there for the Golden State Warriors. And this one, we were saying on the preview show last week a little bit when free agency was going, Klay was going to get some very big attention.
Oh, yeah.
Dallas was a spot that we saw him possibly going to.
Yeah.
I thought Minnesota would have been a better fit.
Yeah.
But this will definitely help the Mavericks in whatever move they want to make.
Right.
So I would say a little shocked at this because I know that he was very rumored to be going to L.A.
Yeah.
to one of the two teams there.
His dad was trying to, and this according to an article I was reading today, his dad was trying to convince him to go to the Lakers, apparently. Yes. You know, I know Stephen A. was reporting it on First Take yesterday. I was not able to watch, so I didn't see the video until way later in the afternoon. But little surprised, and I know there's been some discussion of like, should he feel slighted? Is there some kind of ill will? Listen, it's been well reported that the Golden State Warriors made him an offer. He just felt that given his history and given his, repertoire, if you will, he deserved more.
Yeah.
But when you look at that history, you look at recent history and how they paid him, that massive contract for 4 years. And for 2 of those years, he was out the entire year because of injury. So, is what it is. Time moves on. All things must come to an end. And Klay Thompson with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Oh, my God.
That's going to be a solid 3.
Oh.
That's a solid 3 right there.
Yep. Denver Nuggets, nothing reported yet. For the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham agreed to a 5-year extension. Tim Hardaway joined them via a trade with the Dallas Mavericks. Tobias Harris agreed to a 2-year deal, And then Wendell Moore Jr. was acquired via a trade with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Some solid moves for Detroit, I would say.
Good moves for the Pistons for being in their current position. Tobias Harris, I know Philly fans have some certain feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just kind of leave it at that.
For the Golden State Warriors, DeAnthony Melton agreed to a 1-year deal. They waived Chris Paul. He was a free agent for all of, maybe a day. We'll get to where he landed in just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they acquired Lindy Walters III with a trade with the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah, Golden State is going to have a little bit of work to do. I mean, retooling of the roster, I don't unfortunately see them really doing much right now, but we'll have to wait to see.
Next up is the Houston Rockets, who just a couple moves. A.J. Griffin joined them via a trade with the Atlanta Hawks, and Aaron Holiday returned on a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I think that they were expecting a big free agent star to come there, and it just did not pan out. So
work in progress.
Yeah.
For the Indiana Pacers, Pascal Siakam returned on a 4-year deal. Obi Toppin returned on a 4-year deal as well. And James Wiseman agreed to a 2-year deal.
Solid moves for the Pacers. I mean, obviously going on a little bit of a run in the playoffs does help. So they want to keep some of those key players there. And so it is what it is. Wiseman going there, that's going to be an interesting fit.
Should be. Next up is the LA Clippers. And I'm looking at the logo. God, I forgot this was a thing. If you haven't seen the LA Clippers' new logo, you should Google it. It's a hell of a logo.
Yeah.
Mo Bamba agreed to a 1-year deal. Nicholas Batum agreed to a 2-year deal. Chris Dunn agreed to a deal. James Harden returning on a 2-year deal. Derek Jones Jr. agreed to a 3-year deal. Kevin Porter Jr. agreed to a 2-year deal as well. And if I'm not mistaken, aren't they opening their new stadium this year? So, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, they're opening the new stadium, and this is going to be one that was really centered around having an all-star team ready.
Yeah.
With Kawhi Leonard's injuries, you never know what you're going to get out of him and playing time and such, so that does hurt a little bit. They had to re-sign Harden. I think they overpaid at this stage in the career.
Oh, yeah.
But like I said, in this stage of the career, they needed to because they have to have some star power in that building.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then you got the LA Lakers, who the only move for them thus far is Max Christie, returned on a 4-year deal. Is what it is. It's the Lakers.
They made their big move in the draft getting Bronny James.
Hey, Rich Paul, don't nobody draft Bronny James or he's going to Australia.
Yeah.
Ay, good grief.
There wasn't a lot to really dive into about the draft. I mean, it
went stat quo. Yeah.
It went stat quo, and there's still a lot of moving and shaking that was going on there. So that's why we didn't really dive into a recap. I mean, after the first 2 picks, it really got mixed up a little bit. So I'm not saying anybody really won.
Yeah.
Just like we touched upon, this was probably one of the quieter classes in recent memory. So with Bronny James going to L.A., no real shocker there. I think it's just anybody that really has a question about who's running the Lakers franchise, I think, got their answers.
Well, and plus, I know I speak for a lot of fans, both diehard and casual fans. NBA, please make these trades for like draft picks official the night of, because it is annoying as hell, and it's kind of disrespectful to be watching the NBA draft and here, because I was watching the ESPN broadcast with Stephen A. and I forget who the other gentleman was. Kevin Nagandi was the host. And they're like, oh, yeah, Adrian Wojnarowski is reporting, the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks have made a trade. But the Knicks are still being announced as the one making the pick, and the camera cuts to the Knicks fans getting excited despite the fact the pick is going to Oklahoma City. I just hate it.
Yeah.
Moving on, though, Memphis Grizzlies, nothing yet. For the Miami Heat, Kashad Johnson agreed to a 2-way contract. Kevin Love is returning on a 2-year deal. Zion Pullen is agreed to a 2-way contract, and Drew Smith returned on a 2-way. There's one notable name that was with Miami last year, not on that list.
And that is who, Pat?
One Jimmy Butler.
Interesting to see what is going on there. I mean, he is arguably, as we're recording right now, the biggest question mark about who is still out there that could really impact the team.
And he would impact any team he jumps on right then and there.
Easily.
Next up is the Milwaukee Bucks. Just one move. That is Delon Wright agreed to a 1-year deal. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, it is Luka Garza returning on a 2-year deal. For the New Orleans Pelicans, this might be silently good for them, I think. DeJounte Murray joined them via a trade with the Atlanta Hawks.
That will help them.
Yeah.
That will help them a lot. I mean, obviously breaking up Murray and Trey is something for Atlanta to really kind of think about where they're going with their future. So with Trae Young, I mean, he does have a number 1 draft pick to work with. I just don't think it's going to be enough to really contend.
No. Next up is some team from New York a few people care about.
Let us talk about it.
First of, where do you want to start? You want to start with the one they signed or the one they traded for?
Flip a coin. Let's rock and roll.
We'll go with the one they traded for. They traded with the Brooklyn Nets for Mikal Bridges.
Excellent move. Excellent move. This is well worth the price of the draft picks. Now, before anybody starts wiling out and going, well, the Knicks gave up 5 number ones or whatever the case was.
Yeah, it was like 5 first round, like 4 of them were unprotected, if memory serves.
Right. So let's break this down very quickly. These picks are for what, 2027, 2029, 2031?
The next handful, yes.
So right now, the Knicks are in win now mode.
Uh-huh.
I don't think that they are scouting somebody that is not going to be game ready for another 10 years.
So I got the specifics pulled up here. As we mentioned earlier, Bogdanovich was part of the trade. But the picks in question are an unprotected first-round pick in 2025, another unprotected first-round pick in 2027, an unprotected first in 2029, another unprotected first in 2031, an unprotected pick swap in 2028, in the top 4 protected 2025 first-round pick via the Milwaukee Bucks, plus a second-round pick in 2025.
It is quite a haul.
Yeah, oh yeah, but the Knicks had picks to spare.
That's the thing.
And they added more back, if I'm remembering right, on draft night.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did a masterful job.
Like they gave up 5, and I want to say, and hashtag ODPH pod if I'm wrong, I want to say that one of the trades they made during night 1 of the draft, they added like 4 more back. Mm-hmm. So they're fine.
Yeah, they're completely fine. And adding Bridges, who's part of that whole Villanova class that with Brunson and DiVincenzo and Josh Hart, it makes perfect sense to do. And he is somebody that was flourishing on a bad Brooklyn team.
Well, and I know I haven't looked up the numbers, but like according to everything I heard the day this trade or the day after this trade went down, dude hasn't missed a game in like the entire time he's been in the NBA.
Yeah.
So the dude's a workhorse.
He's definitely somebody that is durable, and that's something the Knicks needed because if they had that during the playoffs, it would have been a different story against Indiana.
That is true.
Just pointing it out there.
The other news for the New York Knickerbockers is OG Anunoby signed a 5-year contract worth more than $210 million.
Some might say this is a lot.
I say that's a lot.
But to put in context, when he was traded from Toronto, and they gave up a lot, Quickly, who re-signed with Toronto, and RJ, this was the move they needed to do because if you let him go, it was going to be very detrimental.
Oh, yeah.
When he arrived, they went on a crazy win streak. I want to say it was like 20-2.
Something like that, yeah.
But when you have his dynamic in there when healthy, he is a game changer.
Uh-huh.
And for the Knicks, they gave up a lot to go get him. They needed to re-sign him, albeit the 212 mark is a little high.
Right, but you knew it was going to cost you.
But you knew it was going to cost you. They had to make a choice. They didn't move Randall as of right now.
Right.
So we don't know what his future is, but that's another contract that's going to need to get sorted out one way or another.
Yeah.
But if you put them together as it is right now, the Knicks are arguably up there in that Boston talk about contenders for the East. That's what they wanted to do, and OG does help, but he has to stay healthy.
It's like fixing a part of your car. You know, if your car needs multiple parts fixed and you want it to run well, you don't want it to run like crap inside of 6 months. It's going to cost you.
Absolutely.
Next up is the Oklahoma City Thunder, who had a couple of moves there. They added Alex Caruso via a trade with the Chicago Bulls. Former New York Knick now, Isaiah Hartenstein, agreed to a 3-year deal, according to Woj, worth a reported $87 million. Listen, I know Knicks fans might be sad to see Hartenstein go. There ain't no way you're going to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
Especially after you just did the 2 whatever with OG.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of jump in there, it does hurt, but at the same time, that is way...
That's a lot.
Way too much to give for that. I'm sorry, like, Hartenstein is a great center.
Yeah.
But would you say he's elite?
Nah.
No, I mean, he's great for the system. I don't know how he's going to translate in Oklahoma City, but then again, look, they were the number 1 seed last year, and they're all young. So he's going to be just fine. I'm happy he got his bag, but at the same time, I would love to see him stay in New York.
Yeah. And then the other 2 moves they did, Isaiah Joe returned on a 4-year deal, and Aaron Wiggins returned on a 5-year deal. For the Orlando Magic, Goga Bitadze agreed to a 3-year deal. KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope agreed to a 3-year deal. Gary Harris agreed to a 2-year deal. Jonathan Isaac agreed to a 5-year extension. And Moritz Wagner returned on a 2-year deal. Not exactly a game changer for Orlando, but not bad.
KCP helps.
Oh, yeah.
KCP leaving Denver does help.
Then you get to the other big news. Well, one of the other big news. For the Philadelphia 76ers, biggest news, Andre Drummond agreed to a 2-year deal. No, I'm kidding. Eric Gordon agreed to a 2-year deal. Tyrese Maxey agreed to a 5-year extension. Kelly Oubre Jr. returned on a 2-year deal. And Paul George agreed to a 4-year deal.
Well, we knew this one was coming.
$212 million smackaroos.
Mm-hmm. George was leaving L.A. He was coming east. We didn't know where he was going to go.
Let's not forget, because we give Kyrie his shit, we should give Paul George his shit. Said to people, I want to retire an LA Clipper.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever he says, 76ers fans, take note.
Yeah. Him on the court, if he's healthy and locked in, yeah, he's going to be a threat.
Well, also with Joel Embiid, but that's also like two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. For anybody that's anointing them the number 1 seed in the East,
I mean, it puts them in contention.
they're in the talk,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But I'm saying to lock it in, no.
Yeah.
Boston is still the team to beat.
Oh, yeah.
The Knicks have drastically improved.
Yeah.
Philly, we've been trusting the process now so long that the process doesn't exist.
Yeah, facts.
So unless they have somebody else emerge to really take that team over, I'm not worried about them.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just have to see what happens there.
Then you get to the Phoenix Suns' biggest move of free agency. Bol returned on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I would say him coming back.
Huge move.
I forget if there was some player that's very critical of him.
Oh.
Retired. I can't remember who. Hashtag ODPH pod. But yeah, we'll have to see what they get out of Bull.
Colin Gillespie agreed to a 2-way contract. Monty Morris agreed to a deal. And I did not know this man was still playing in the NBA. Mason Plumlee agreed to a 1-year deal. I heard that news. I'm like, he's still playing?
Yeah, he's I mean, obviously on the tail end, I think, at this stage, but yeah.
Sure. For the Portland Trailblazers, who need everything in the kitchen sink, they acquired Denny Avdija via a trade with the Washington Wizards. And Justin Minaya returned on a 2-way contract. Like I said, Portland needs everything in the kitchen sink.
Yeah, I was going to say, what can you say there?
Sacramento Kings, Alex Len returned on a 1-year deal. Jalen McDaniels joined them via a trade with the Toronto Raptors. And Malik Monk returned on a 4-year contract deal.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Obviously, if somebody's staying long-term in Sacramento, that's big.
We alluded to Chris Paul leaving the Golden State Warriors and said we get to where he ended up in a little bit. Well, we're there. Chris Paul agreed to a 1-year contract with the San Antonio Spurs. That very interesting. Good landing spot for him.
Very good landing spot. Him and Wemby. That's a dangerous combo.
Mm-hmm. For the Toronto Raptors, Scotty Barnes agreed to a 5-year extension. Davion Mitchell joined them via a trade with the Sacramento Kings. Emmanuel Quickley returned on a 5-year deal. Garrett Temple agreed to a 1-year deal, and Sasha Venenkov joined them via a trade with the Kings.
Well, solid moves, I say.
Yeah. Then the last 2 teams, you got the Utah Jazz, where Drew Eubanks agreed to a 2-year deal. Omar Yurtseven was waived. He became a free agent. And then for the Washington Wizards, you had Malcolm Brogdon joined them via a trade with the Portland Trailblazers. Richaun Holmes returned on a 2-year deal. And Jonas Valanciunas agreed to a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I would say Washington needs a lot of help, so anything goes there.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the conferences, though, West, not a whole lot going on. East is definitely stacking up, though.
The East really swung the pendulum back to their favor.
Yeah.
I think the winner of free agency right now, on paper, Philly.
Yeah.
The Knicks, Dallas.
Yeah, I would say so.
I think all those teams really upgraded to where they needed to step in the right direction.
Uh-huh.
Philly, I'm going to just kind of move to second place about that because the thing about Paul George is, as great as he is, he still hasn't taken a team into a deep run.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had talented teams to work with.
Yeah.
So this is not like he's been by himself.
Right.
So
he's also got to stay healthy.
Right. And that's another thing, too.
Yeah.
Going to Philly, where Joel Embiid has struggled doing that as well.
I mean, like I said, it's a sexy 1-2. down low with him and Joel Embiid. But like, it's only super sexy if you're playing NBA 2K and you've turned injuries off.
Exactly.
This ain't 2K. This is the real world. Injuries are a thing.
Right. So I have to wait to see how that shapes up. The Knicks, I thought, really made some moves.
Solid moves.
The
Yeah.
Randall question mark, though, is the only one I'm waiting to see. Because if they can keep him, which with OG there, they're going to be a small lineup. That's the only thing that worries me. With Mitchell Robinson, I mean, he's not played a full season, to my recollection, in a little bit. And plus, he's not exactly an offensive threat. So that does become somewhat of a liability.
So Julius Randle contract is he signed a 4-year, holy hell, $117+ million contract where he is going to be entering year 3. There isn't a player option for next year, and then after that, he is an unrestricted free agent in the 2026-2027 season. As for Mitchell Robinson, pull up his stats here. Let's see, that's per game. Where the heck are his season stats? I will look that up as we discuss.
So that's the one question mark I think the Knicks fans are waiting to see.
Oh, there they are. 2018-2019, 66 games. 19-20, 61 games. 2021, 31 games. 2021-2022, 72 games. Then this 2 seasons ago now, 59 games. And this past season, 31. So the most games he's ever played in an NBA season was 72.
Yeah, so to let Hartenstein go and keep him, I mean, they did sign Mitchell before, so it's a tough call.
I mean, listen, you're banking with the way his track record is going. He's going to miss probably like a third of the season.
Mm-hmm. So I know they've addressed a little bit in the draft. I mean, we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
But I think that the Randall question mark is going to be the one that if the Knicks are going to try making one more splash, that'd be the one I'd watch.
Randall, they might try and just see how it works out the first half of the season, and if it's not working, just trade him for picks by the trade deadline.
Right. The only thing, like I say, there'll be a small lineup.
Yeah.
And you're really going to have a lot of money tied up between him and OG.
Right.
So you can only have so many players on the court at once. That's going to be something that as long as that team can come together about minutes and playing time, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah.
But listen, they proved that they were doing it right this year until injuries started happening. So I don't doubt them pulling it off again.
This is true.
So in Dallas, I mean, adding Clay, that does help.
Clay's solid. He doesn't have to be, the primary scorer. He can just do what he does and shoot the ball.
Yeah, I think at this stage of his career, I mean, the expectations on him are low, which is good because he can fly under the radar for some teams. So, other than that, I think free agency has made some headlines, but
relatively quiet. And the thing we should note is these deals are announced. They're not officially signed until July 6th.
Right.
This is the negotiation period. So that's why a lot of times when you hear these deals, it's, they intend to sign or they plan on signing because it ain't official until July 6th.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of moving and shaking can still happen, but for right now, some teams made a big splash. The others made a little ripple.
Some have done nothing at all.
Mm-hmm. So hit us up on the hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about the current state of NBA free agency? How's your team doing? Let's talk. But first, we're going to get a quick break. We'll be right back.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, check out nerdinitiative.com.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. And we have to recap a card that definitely made a lot of headlines.
In the octagon and out.
Yeah, there was a lot of...
Holy hell.
A lot of unexpected circumstances. That is the easiest way to describe it.
Most cursed card ever? Question mark?
I'd say it has to be in that conversation.
Good God.
Pat, what are we talking about?
We were talking about UFC 303, which took place this past Saturday from the T-Mobile Arena in wonderful Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're on the MMA subreddit, you know what I'm talking about. This almost reached GoofCon status. Good God.
Yeah, this was out of control.
Yeah.
There has been so many fights that were canceled, even up to the day.
The hours. So
let's go over the main card, and we'll kind of deep dive into what the insanity was.
So the first match we're going to talk about was a welterweight matchup where Ian Machado Gary defeated Michael Page via unanimous decision. All 3 judges scoring the contest 29-28.
Great showing for Gary. Really surprised at this one, unanimous decision, but this is one that he needs to really rise up those rankings. I mean, obviously 15-0, title shot has to be getting louder and louder
One would think.
amongst the offices of the UFC, so we'll have to wait to see how that plays out.
Yeah, no, it's just the way it seemed. Gary got control and never let up. So, hey, good for him.
Smart for him.
Next up was a women's bantamweight division where Macy Chiasson defeated Mayra Bueno Silva via TKO and specifically doctor stoppage with a wicked cut over her eye at 1 minute 58 seconds of the second round.
Yeah, this was a great fight, but that cut really derailed plans, to say the least. So,
Yeah.
Chasen got a big win there, but I wouldn't mind seeing this get ran back.
I think it will. Next up was a light heavyweight matchup where Roman Dolidze defeated Anthony Smith via unanimous decision. 2 judges scoring the contest 29-28, the third judging the contest 30-27.
So I'm just going to say for Smith, I think unfortunately Father Time is catching up with him.
Yeah.
This was not a great performance in my opinion. Yeah. And plus, I think when Dolidze was dancing around him at one point, and the fact that Smith didn't go in for a big strike, I think that was kind of the sign that something was not going to go his favor. So,
yeah.
But we'll have to see where the future plays for both.
Then we get to the batshit insane stuff, because if you listen to last week's show, it was supposed to be a matchup between Brian Ortega and Diego Lopez, which, they weighed in. They both came in. One came in 145, one came in 146.5. So, fine. Then the day of, all hell broke loose because Brian Ortega then ended up withdrawing from the fight because he was ill as a result of the weight cut, reportedly. So then he was declared medically unfit to fight, and then became a scramble, the likes of which I've never seen. Ariel Helwani, who's covered the sport for God knows how long, had never seen, where they were scrambling to find a fighter the day of. And who steps in? Dan Ige. Now, how did this happen, you might ask? Well, simple. Dan Ige was already in Vegas training. If I'm not mistaken, he lives in Vegas. Already training. They being the Nevada State Athletic Commission, already had his medicals because he was scheduled for a fight, I believe, on July 14th.
He was scheduled for a fight in 3 weeks.
Yeah, he was scheduled for a fight in 3 weeks. So they already had his medicals. He was already licensed to fight in the state. So all they needed was for him to weigh in. So with 4 hours to go before the fight, he stepped up, filled the role, and then stepped in to fight Diego Lopez on 4 hours notice. So the fight ended up, it was a catchweight bout at 165. Diego Lopez ended up emerging victorious, defeating Dan Ige via unanimous decision. All 3 judges scoring the contest 29-28.
Great performance from both fighters.
Yeah, it's a loss in the win-loss column for Dan Ige. In terms of people's opinion, not a loss. Dude stepped up on 4 hours notice.
Yeah, this was absolutely nothing to sneeze about. Ige stepped up. Lopez was he was more ready.
Yeah.
But listen, Ige's saving the card and saving him from not fighting. Yeah, he deserves all the credit in the world. We need more fighters like this that are just ready to go at the drop of a dime. I know they do this for the main events, but they might want to start thinking about this for some of the other main card fights at least. Yeah. Have somebody that's there that's ready to make some weight. It's a quick payday, but for Ige, this is something that really, when we see him fight again, I don't doubt him getting a marquee spot on a card.
I think so.
So
then we get to the main event, the fight we all came to see. That was the light heavyweight championship between Alex Pereira defending his belt against Jiri Prochazka. And Alex Pereira did what Alex Pereira did. Win. Knocking out Prochazka with a head kick and punches at 13 seconds of the second round.
This is the stuff that the UFC really needs. And that is a star on the rise that is going in and being very dominant. And no matter who the opponent is, they're showing up and showing out.
Yes.
Pereira has been absolutely impressive, save one fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
And he has gone in this light heavyweight bout against Prochazka. Granted, it's a rematch. And he just showed flawless power. And then the knockout that they were showing all over the place. I was actually getting a message about, I can't believe the UFC is showing that knockout right after the fight happened. And I'm like,
they always do.
They don't show the footage always. They'll show right before or right after. They showed that knockout for a reason.
Right.
And they want you, the consumer, to buy into the hype of Pereira that he is the next big star in MMA.
Okay.
And you have to think like that because since he's been in here, He's already won 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
He wants to fight at heavyweight.
Well, good luck fighting John. John don't fight anybody.
That's the talk right now that they want to try doing. I don't know if they would, and I'll be very honest, I don't know if they want to do that Pereira because Pereira has no ground game that he's displayed.
Right.
If John wants to stand with him, that would be something.
Right.
But that is the only hiccup that I think could happen there.
I mean, listen, the only issue I see with this is, again, John ducking people left, right, and center because in the last 4 years, he's fought once.
Exactly. He's picking his spot. He wants to fight Miocic.
He fought Dominic Reyes at UFC 247 on February 8th, 2020. Unanimous decision win. His next fight wouldn't be until UFC 285 with a guillotine choke submission win against Cyril Gane. That was on March 4th, 2023.
Mm-hmm. No, he's waiting. He knows what he wants to do. That's why I would say if the UFC decided to take the title from him,
which they should,
which I think at this point they have to run the business. You can't let the inmates run the asylum, so to speak. You have to take the belt from him, just give it to Aspinall, your interim champion, and then have him fight Pereira. That is the box office match that should happen. And if the UFC is smart, they force the issue and do it.
You would think.
Because if Pereira wins, hypothetically saying, 3 different weight classes, 3 times a champion.
I don't know if that's ever been done.
It's never been done. It would be historic.
Yeah.
And trust me, Pereira wants to go to heavyweight. He said he'll fight anybody anywhere. Yeah. So why not make that fight? That's what I would do if I'm Dana and the powers that be there. That is how you capitalize on this momentum, and I think that's why they showed that knockout and all the different angles. They didn't hesitate. They didn't strike anybody against it. They wanted everybody to see that knockout because they were building a star.
Right.
So now the question is, where do we go from here? I think that is where they need to go. I can't really see anything else that is that enticing.
No, neither can I.
So we'll have to wait and see, but what a hell of a card.
Yeah.
To finally get done with it and come out one piece.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm. So that being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about UFC 303? Where do the winners go from here? How you feeling about Dan Ige stepping on short notice? And John Jones, Alex Pereira. Let's talk about it. First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast, and it's time to talk about a little bit of money.
Oh boy.
Because it's Money in the Bank season for the WWE.
Hell yes.
A lot of moving and shaking has been going on both shows, Raw and SmackDown. Paul Heyman getting taken out by the Bloodline.
Powerbomb through a table.
Judgment Day imploding possibly with Finn and Damian getting at each other.
Ain't no possibly about it. They will.
Liv Morgan doing Liv Morgan things.
Hey now.
The Wyatt Six still unveiling their master scheme.
Yeah. Good Lord.
There's just so much going on there, but it's all building towards a head coming up this weekend in Toronto. So, Pat, let's talk about the card, shall we?
Real quick side note. Can we both agree Chad Gable has never seen a horror movie in his life?
Yes.
Oh, my God. Wyatt Six showed up on Monday Night Raw, and he stood there.
Mm-hmm.
Dude's never seen a horror movie. But yes.
But he can't be killed. That's why. He has no fear.
That's true. The man got shot in the head and still alive. But yeah, getting back to the point, this taking place this Saturday. I believe it's a start time of 7 p.m. Note that, not 8 o'clock, 7 p.m. From the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. It is Money in the Bank. Couple of matches going on here. We're going to run through them in no particular order. First up is a 6-man tag team match between Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens against the Bloodline, or as I'm going to call them, the Bloodline 2.0. And then any 3 of the following, because they still haven't announced who's participating. But the possible participants are Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, or Jacob Fatu.
I think Jacob's going to be the odd man out here.
Yeah, probably.
I think they're holding out just a little bit longer. He will be wrestling very, very shortly on WWE TV, but I think he's going to be the odd man out. They've been building the storyline up very, very nicely.
Yeah.
I think, though, this is where we're going to have a surprise heel turn by one Randall Keith Orton.
Probably.
I think he takes out Cody to set up their eventual match.
Yeah.
And because they've been kind of teasing a little bit if you watch how Randy reacts during interview segments.
Yeah.
So that's where I think they're going.
I know a lot of people are speculating this is where Roman's going to return, but I think given recent events, especially when it pertains to his family, that might have been the plan at one point, I think. But now I think that's going to get held off until SummerSlam.
Yeah, SummerSlam is locked.
But yeah, I think this is where we're going to get the turn for Randy Orton and see that happen. Next up is a singles match for the WWE Intercontinental Championship with Sami Zayn defending his belt against Braun Breaker.
Hell of a setup for this.
Oh,
Braun Breaker is a star on the rise. Sami is matching him for the promo intensity.
Yeah.
That's the only way you can describe Braun because he is just one seriously dialed-in gentleman, and I think this is going to be a very hard-hitting match. I would be shocked if Sami retained, so I'm going to say Braun wins this.
I think Sami's going to win it, but it's not going to be, like a very dominant win. It's going to be like skin of his teeth because I think there's a little bit more money to be had with Braun Breaker just being an absolute menace backstage and just taking everyone out, destroying people, throwing people into things, lawn darting them. I think that's where the money is. Yes, Braun does obviously deserve the title, and if he wins, I will not be surprised in any way. Just I think there's a little bit more money to be had in him having the chase.
I agree with you, too. I mean, I would love to see it, but like I say, I just think they're setting up for it. But the only question is, where do you go from here? Because I don't think Kaiser is back from his injury just yet.
No, I don't think so.
So we'll have to see.
Next up is a last chance match for the World Heavyweight Championship with Damian Priest defending his belt against Seth freaking Rollins. And what do we mean by last chance match? Well, if Damian Priest wins, Seth Rollins will never challenge for the title as long as Damian Priest is champion. However, if Seth Rollins wins, Damian Priest must leave the Judgment Day.
Big stipulation here.
Uh-huh.
So this one can go one of two ways. They could have Seth go over here, which I do think could happen. Because I think Finn Balor is going to interfere. I think they've been teasing it enough that I think that they want to finally make the big switch where Finn becomes the head of the Judgment Day. Maybe some Liv Morgan interference here happens.
Could be. There was a little tease on Monday. Priest asked Finn not to get involved on at Money in the Bank. And Finn's like, oh, yeah, sure, whatever.
So that is an option there, too.
Yeah.
Because the only other way, obviously, is if Seth loses, but then where do you go from there?
Right.
Plus, who has enough animosity to go after him since he's just coming back? It would make a lot of sense for CM Punk.
Yeah.
Because obviously he's tied in with Drew McIntyre. Drew trying to take him out because of reasons is really stretching things.
Yeah.
If the Bloodline wanted to get involved, maybe, but I just don't see it. And I honestly don't think Roman's appearing to do something. I was reading that online a couple of different places. I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
So I'm going to say this. I think Damian loses because of Finn interference.
I could see that. I think Damian's going to lose in some capacity, but how, not quite sure yet. Then you've got the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, which, of course, you win this. You win an opportunity for a title opportunity anytime, any place, anywhere for any belt of your choosing. And the participants are Io Sky, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria, Tiffany Stratton, Naomi, and Zoe Stark.
Hell of a lineup here.
I'm a little disappointed Dakota Kai didn't get in, which I didn't think she was going to win, but they sold me a little bit on the, ever since she came back and was on the main roster, she's really never had a singles opportunity. And I'm like, you know what? She hasn't. I think she kind of deserves one. But a little bummed she's not in it, but should still be a good match.
I mean, she could still somehow sneak in.
Io Sky is in the match.
Well, that's the whole thing there. If they wanted to do some kind of weird setup there, I think they would.
Yeah.
But this one, I tell you what, I would love if Chelsea Green won.
That'd be awesome.
The promos alone would really do a job. But I'm going to say I think this is Tiffy time.
I agree.
I think they've been really pushing her, and rightfully so. She is the future of the business. So I wouldn't doubt that she winds up winning this.
I agree 100%. Then you've got the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, which same stipulation applies. You win this, you get a chance for an championship opportunity anytime, any place, anywhere for any belt of your choosing. And the participants are main event Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, L.A. Knight, and Drew McIntyre.
Well, Drew just won in a fantastic main event on Monday night
Oh my God.
with him and Sheamus and Dragunov.
Ilya, yeah.
So I think, though, they've almost telegraphed this.
Okay.
I can't see how Jey Uso doesn't win this.
I agree.
I think the problem that you have here, well, not really a problem. It's a good problem to have. CM Punk is probably going to wind up costing Drew McIntyre the opportunity.
Uh-huh.
I see that happening. Logan Paul, I think, costs LA Knight.
Yep.
And then with the Wyatt Six, that's the only real X factor I could see somehow sneaking in.
I think it's going to be Nikki Cross showing up, scaring the absolute hell. It could be all of them. I think at the least Nikki Cross is going to show up, scare the shit out of Chad Gable, and chase him out of the arena.
What do you think the possibilities are of the Wyatt Six taking everybody out and Uncle Howdy just grabs the belt?
Ooh,
or the case?
Ooh, I hadn't thought of that. I like that thought. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Brock Lesnar did it a couple years ago.
Right, he just takes it and walks.
Yeah,
just quietly.
Ooh, I like that.
Something to think about, but because otherwise I say this is all Jey Uso.
I agree. Listen, Jey Uso, I think the money's there. McIntyre, listen, he deserves another, chance at the title. He's more than earned it. But the money fight isn't there. That's not there until he gets his match with CM Punk. So Punk is going to screw him over for the fourth time in less than 6 months.
Let it happen, folks.
Legendary hatred between these two. But I think it's going to be main event Jey Uso. And I think we're going to get another one of those custom briefcases for Jey Uso. You want an idea what it might look like? Look at the poster they made for this event.
Yeah.
It's going to look something like that.
Yeah, I think they've already kind of tipped their hat a little bit, but that's why I say don't dunk on the idea of Uncle Howdy.
I would like it.
So definitely we'll have some much more to talk about on there, and a special edition of Wrestling Night Live taking place Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Nerd Initiative YouTube. In the meantime, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH Pod. What is your thoughts about WWE Money in the Bank? What are your predictions? Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
This is Tom from Tom Joe Lou,
This is Matt from Sideroom Sounds.
and you're listening to ODPH Podcast.
Wanna go where no one knows my name, to the desert, the oceans, or the plains. 'Cause I wanna...
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH Podcast Sports Edition. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about. First of which is obviously the local minute. And speaking of Rumble Ponies news, the 2024 Major League Baseball All-Star Futures Game rosters got announced. So if you don't know what that is where you get the best players, or at least that year's best players for the National League and the American League, at least a couple from every team, playing at the All-Star Game site. And one of our own, Binghamton Rumble Ponies, got announced for the team. Right-handed pitcher Brandon Sproat, who is the number 6 overall prospect in the Mets farm system and the number 98 overall prospect in all of Major League Baseball, got selected for the All-Star Game. So congratulations to him. From the New York Yankees, this is no surprise. Spencer Jones, outfielder, the number 2 overall prospect in the Yankees farm system, 75 overall got picked. And then Brock Selvage got picked, left-handed pitcher. He's number 10 in the Yankees farm system. I've seen Spencer Jones play. I saw him play when the Somerset Patriots were here a couple weeks ago. Dude's real good. Looking at the standings for the double Eastern League division, of course, that's where Binghamton Mets play. Binghamton Rumble Ponies. What year is it? You've got the Hartford Yard Goats in first place, record of 42-32. Portland in second place with a record of 40-35. Rumble Ponies in third, 37-36. And you've got the Somerset Patriots in fourth with a record of 38-38. Reading in second to last with a record of 33-42. Then you got New Hampshire in last with a record of 32-42. Looking at their schedule from this past week, had a host of games going on this past week. They were at home playing the Portland Sea Dogs. They lost the game on Tuesday by the final score of 5-2. The game on Wednesday was postponed because of inclement weather, made up on the 28th. The game on the Thursday, the 27th, was a 8-0 win. Then you had the doubleheader on Friday, which was the first game was lost 2-0. They won the second game 1-0. Then you had the game on Saturday, again, get postponed due to inclement weather. That one will be made up on August 13th. And then the game on Sunday was a 9-1 loss. And then got a couple of home games going on this week. And then before they go on the road, a little weird, but hey, is what it is. The game on Monday was at home against the Hartford Yard Goats, where they lost by the final score of 6-1. They're currently playing the Hartford Yard Goats, where it is 0-0 in the first inning. Then they got a game tomorrow on 3rd of July, 5:45 Eastern, where, if I'm not mistaken, looking at their promotions, yes, it is their. They got the Toyota Fireworks series going on, and you got to figure that is going to be the big fireworks show of the year because, well, they're on the road for 4th of July, so that's going to be their 4th of July fireworks show, the biggest of the year. Also going to be the Blue Angels appearance that same day, so you get to meet and greet with the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, so that's going to be obviously something to see. Then they go on the road playing Hartford Thursday at 6:10, Friday at 6:10, Saturday at 6:10, and then no game on Sunday. And then they're on the road again next week, and they do not play another home game after today and tomorrow until July 19th, because I believe the All-Star game for AA is in that 15th to 18th.
Yeah, I believe you're right.
So for more tickets, information, all that good stuff, bingrp.com. Then we got to talk a little bit of Major League Baseball because we're in the second round of voting for the All-Star game. And this is where you can vote on who's going to be the starters for each position. For the American League, your two choices at first base, Vladimir Guerrero of the Toronto Blue Jays and Ryan Mountcastle of the Baltimore Orioles. Second base, Marcus Semien of the Texas Rangers and fucking Jose Altuve of the Astros. You know who I voted for.
Yeah.
At third base, you have Jose Ramirez of the Cleveland Guardians and Jordan Westberg of the Baltimore Orioles. Shortstop is Gunnar Henderson of the Baltimore Orioles and Bobby Witt Jr. of the Kansas City Royals. Can't go wrong with either of those. Catcher is Salvador Perez of the Kansas City Royals and Adley Rutschman of the Baltimore Orioles. Again, neither of those are a bad choice. For the outfielders, for the American League, you got two selections because Aaron Judge was the top vote getter from the first round, so he's already starting.
No surprise.
Nope. So of the remaining gentlemen, you have to choose two more, and they are between Stephen Kwan of the Cleveland Guardians, Anthony Santander of the Baltimore Orioles, Juan Soto of the New York Yankees, and Kyle Tucker of the Houston Astros. And for designated hitter, it is Yordan Alvarez of the Astros and Ryan O'Hearn of the Orioles. For the National League, well, the starter for first base is already in because Bryce Harper was the top vote getter, so he's starting first base. Second base is Luis Arias of the San Diego Padres, Ketel Marte of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Third base, Alec Boehm of the Philadelphia Phillies and Manny Machado of the San Diego Padres. Shortstop is Mookie Betts and Trey Turner of the LA Dodgers and Trey Turner of the Philadelphia Phillies. Catcher is William Contreras of the Brewers and JT Realmuto of the Phillies. And then outfield is you got to select three from these gentlemen: Nick Castellanos of the Phillies, Teoscar Hernandez of the Dodgers, Brandon Marsh of the Phillies, Jurickson Profar of the San Diego Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. of the San Diego Padres, and Christian Yelich of the Milwaukee Brewers. And for designated hitter, Kyle Schwarber and Shohei Ohtani.
Definitely stacked field, so get your votes in.
Stacked field, yeah. Voting closes on July 3rd at 12 o'clock Eastern. So definitely get your voting in. And then we got one more bit of local news, but it's also Olympic news.
Yes.
The Olympics from Paris, France are taking place here at the end of July. I believe it's July 26th. Could be wrong. Hashtag ODPH pod. But one of our own local athletes is going to be running in the Olympics, running literally. And that is Emily McKay, qualified for the U.S. Olympic team in the 1,500 meter run. She was the runner-up in the final time trial with a time of 3 minutes, 55 seconds, and 90 milliseconds. Basically, because she finished top three of the race, she clinched her first ever spot as a U.S. Olympian. She went to school here in college locally at Binghamton University, graduated high school here locally at Union Endicott High School. So shout out to her and good luck in the Olympics.
Hell yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing news, amazing story to close out this week's show with. Man, I'm getting excited for the Olympics.
Yeah.
Slowly but surely, it always kind of catches me a little off guard. But that being said, for anything and everything, that is ODPHpodcast.com. And that's it for this week in sports. So for the one, Padawan Jay.
Fuck the Astros.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.
It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know. 'Cause anyone who's worth a damn be worth way more than a picture could ever show. You could find the right light, find the right angle, and never find your soul. And it can feel like a losing battle, and this plot is full of holes. This modern way of finding love just makes me feel so alone. And I can't be the only one sick of staring at my phone. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Don't know that I believe in the old time fable. Everyone has just one true love. All I know is you're across this table, and you're all I'm thinking of. So look up, talk to me, a better way to spend our energy. Just look up, talk to me. We don't have to float alone on the open sea. Talk to me. Talk to me. It's such waste of time, swiping left and swiping right on people you could know.